Boston may be standing at the edge of a quiet but game-changing decision that could shape the energy of the upcoming season in a way few outside the locker room can predict. Imagine a final roster spot that carries the promise of youth, explosive athleticism, and the kind of untapped upside that can tilt games when the playoffs arrive. While the headlines have focused on the stars and the pressure of a repeat run, a 24-year-old forward suddenly available on the market might be the piece that sneaks in under the radar and makes the difference when it matters most. KJ Martin has just been waived by the Utah Jazz, and the ripple effect of that move could be far bigger than it looks today. Before we dive deep into why this name could mean a lot to the Boston Celtics, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and smash the hype button so you never miss a single twist of this unpredictable offseason. The Boston front office has spent the summer searching for value and flexibility while keeping the core that delivered a championship intact. Every decision has been calculated to balance winning now with maintaining the financial breathing room to chase future opportunities. Into that careful strategy steps KJ Martin, a 6'6" wing who produced 6.4 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 1.1 assists per game across 43 appearances split between Philadelphia and Utah last season. On paper, those numbers look modest, but numbers can hide the context that excites scouts. Martin's vertical leap and first step remain elite. His body control allows him to finish through contact, and his ability to guard multiple positions is the kind of modern skill set Boston values when the game slows down in May and June. What makes this scenario so intriguing is not just what Martin already is, but what he could become inside a winning culture. At 24, he is younger than several current rotation players were when they joined the Celtics, and Boston's track record of turning overlooked talents into key contributors is well known across the league. Brad Stevens and his staff have consistently found ways to unlock players who were stuck in limited roles elsewhere, from Derek White to Sam Hauser, and Martin fits the profile of someone who could explode in the right environment. A low-cost training camp deal offers almost no downside, yet the upside could stretch into a multi-year partnership if his athletic gifts translate into consistent production. Skeptics will point to his career 32.9% mark from three-point range, but even that statistic invites curiosity. With the Philadelphia 76ers, he shot 38.1% from deep in 24 games, a sign that with the right spacing and rhythm, his jumper can find a higher level. The Utah sample, where he hit only 18.9%, came in a different system with inconsistent minutes and few clean looks. Boston's offensive structure, built on ball movement and spacing created by stars like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, would give Martin a steady diet of open corner shots and transition opportunities that simply did not exist in his previous stops. The financial angle adds another layer of intrigue. Signing Martin on a minimum or partially guaranteed deal would allow the Celtics to stay mindful of the luxury tax while keeping their 15th roster spot flexible. This is exactly the kind of smart, patient move that allows a contender to stay one step ahead of rivals. Passing on him simply because Utah moved on would ignore the different timelines and priorities of each franchise. Boston is not in the same position as the Jazz, and a player who may not fit a rebuilding team can thrive on a contender where his role is defined and his effort is rewarded with wins. Every offseason brings its share of noise, but some opportunities whisper rather than shout. KJ Martin represents one of those moments, a chance to add a young, explosive wing without sacrificing assets or future flexibility. For a team that thrives on depth and versatility, the idea of Martin joining the Stay Ready group and pushing for minutes when the grind of an 82-game season begins is far more than a footnote. It is a potential spark waiting to ignite, and Boston fans should watch closely as this story unfolds. The possibility of KJ Martin joining Boston already feels like a spark waiting to ignite, but the real thunder rolling across the league now comes from a name that nobody in Boston wants to imagine wearing another jersey. Derek White has suddenly become the center of trade speculation that refuses to fade, and the whispers around him have created a mystery that even the most plugged-in insiders cannot fully decode. Fans know White as the steady force who helped deliver a championship, and as the guard who makes the small plays that win playoff games, yet behind closed doors rival executives are calculating how far they can push to pry him away. It is the kind of tension that turns a quiet offseason into a suspenseful drama, and it leaves Boston supporters both anxious and excited about what could happen next. Before we explore why Derek White is being called the dramatic name of the summer, remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and fire up the hype button so you stay connected to every twist in this unfolding saga. The trade chatter began when Houston lost Fred VanVleet to a torn anterior cruciate ligament, removing their veteran floor general for the entire season. Almost overnight, analysts began floating Derek White as the perfect replacement, pointing to his elite defense, efficient scoring, and ability to lead a team deep into the playoffs. Bill Simmons went on record calling White the dramatic name to watch, and warned that any team daring to call Boston would need to bring real assets to the table. This is not a case of adding a role player. This is about prying away a cornerstone from a defending champion, and that means the cost would have to be staggering. Reports already indicate that multiple teams offered packages including 2 first-round picks and a swap, only to be turned away without hesitation. What fuels the curiosity is the combination of White's value and his contract. He is entering the second year of a 4-year extension worth $126 million, a deal that keeps him under team control through his age 35 season with a player option in the final year. That kind of stability makes him irresistible to contenders searching for a guard who can defend multiple positions, create offense, and fit seamlessly alongside other stars. Houston in particular has connections that make the rumors hard to dismiss. Their head coach, Ime Udoka, already knows White's game from his time in Boston, and the Rockets own a treasure chest of draft picks that could tempt any front office if the right moment arrives. Yet Boston has made it clear that their bar for a trade is sky high. League insiders say the Celtics would demand a package similar to the blockbuster that sent Mikal Bridges to New York, a deal that involved 5 first-round picks. Some have even speculated that Boston would require 3 first-round picks plus a young player just to start the conversation. That price tag sends a clear message to the rest of the league that Derek White is not merely available, he is untouchable unless the return is historic. The intrigue deepens when you consider the current state of the roster. With Jason Tatum recovering from a torn Achilles tendon, White is expected to carry an even larger role this season. He averaged 16.4 points for 0.8 assists, for 0.5 rebounds, 1.1 blocks, and nearly a steal per game last year, while shooting 38.4% from three-point range. Removing him now would create an enormous hole in both the offense and the defense, and it would send a message to Tatum and Jaylen Brown that the team is willing to sacrifice immediate success for long-term flexibility. Brad Stevens and Mike Zarin have publicly pushed back on the rumors, emphasizing that White and Brown are key pieces of the present and the future. Still, the possibility lingers because White represents both security and opportunity. His contract is team-friendly for a player of his caliber, and that makes him a perfect piece for a blockbuster if Boston ever decided to chase another superstar or reshape the roster around a new financial landscape. The Celtics have already proven they are willing to make bold moves, trading Kristaps Porzingis and Jrue Holiday in the same offseason to maintain flexibility under the escalating luxury tax. White sits at the intersection of those competing goals, a player too valuable to move, but too valuable not to attract relentless interest. For fans, this is where the curiosity gap explodes. Will Boston stand firm and keep the guard who helped bring banner number 18 to the rafters, or will an offer arrive that even this patient and disciplined front office cannot refuse? Every new report brings a jolt of suspense, every insider tweet feels like a clue, and every day, without resolution, only adds to the drama. Derek White remains a Celtic today, and that fact alone should give supporters confidence that the franchise is guarding its future carefully. Yet the league is watching, the phone lines are open, and the possibility of a blockbuster is enough to keep Boston on the edge of the basketball world. The Boston Celtics offseason has unfolded like a high-stakes chess match, and the latest updates turn this summer into something far more dramatic than a simple roster reshuffle. After weeks of speculation about whether Boston would dare to break up a core that dominated the league for 2 straight years, Brad Stevens and his front office executed a series of moves that shocked the NBA and quietly repositioned the franchise for both immediate competitiveness and long-term flexibility. Fans who thought the Celtics would stand pat after losing in the Eastern Conference semifinals are now staring at a completely rebalanced roster with hidden upside and a financial strategy that could rewrite the team's future. The story began with the painful end of the 2024-25 season when Boston, despite 61 regular season wins, lost Jason Tatum to a torn Achilles in Game 4 against the Knicks and saw a commanding playoff run crumble. The injury forced management to face an uncomfortable reality. The roster was elite but expensive, with a projected salary north of $230 million and a potential luxury tax bill that could have exceeded $280 million. Even the wealthiest ownership groups hesitate at those numbers. The question was no longer whether to trim costs, but how to do it without sacrificing the dream of another banner in the rafters. The first answer came with the bold trade of Kristaps Porzingis. Moving the talented but fragile big man and his $30.7 million expiring contract to Atlanta in a three-team deal cleared a massive chunk of salary and reduced the tax burden from a record-setting projection to roughly $40 million. Boston accepted a return heavy on future second-round picks and the rights to forward Georges Niang, who was then flipped to Utah for more flexibility. It was a pure financial maneuver that looked like a retreat, but in reality freed the Celtics from the crushing restrictions of the second apron and gave them room to maneuver before the February trade deadline. Then came a move that sent shockwaves through the league. Jrue Holiday, beloved for his defense and championship pedigree, was traded straight up to Portland for Anthony Simons. At first glance, Holiday is the better all-around player, but the Celtics gained crucial multi-year flexibility by swapping Holiday's three-year, $104 million deal for Simons' $27.7 million expiring contract. Simons is only 26 and one of the league's most dangerous perimeter scorers, averaging roughly 20 points per game with elite three-point efficiency over his last 4 seasons. He is not the defensive force that Holiday is, but his scoring punch alongside Jaylen Brown gives Boston a dynamic offensive option and a valuable trade chip if the front office decides to pivot again mid-season. While the headlines focused on those blockbuster trades, the Celtics quietly executed a series of under-the-radar signings that could pay surprising dividends. Veteran forward Chris Boucher brings shot blocking and three-point shooting on a 1-year minimum deal, the kind of low-cost swing that can stabilize a second unit. Boston also pounced on former Timberwolves prospects Luka Garza and Josh Minott with guaranteed minimum contracts, betting on their G League dominance and untapped potential to recreate the success they once found with Luke Cornett. Two-way contracts for rookies Amari Williams and Max Shulga add even more developmental upside, while first-round pick Hugo Gonzalez arrives with a 4-year rookie scale deal worth more than $14 million and the skill set to eventually crack the rotation. Financially, the transformation is just as striking as the roster changes. After starting the summer deep into second apron territory, Boston now sits around $200 million in salary and could even duck below the first apron or luxury tax line before season's end. They still hold a taxpayer mid-level exception worth over $5.6 million and 3 traded player exceptions, including one valued at more than $22 million. This means Stevens retains the power to add significant talent